Assalamu alaikum, guys. So I'm just going to do a quick review of what we covered on the tools of analyzing and organizing the past. So how do historians really investigate the past? Well, first they frame the problem they want to study. So that's the particular event or person that they want to study. Then they select and analyze available evidence. So that's where primary and secondary sources come in. And then they will analyze those sources. So they'll check for internal and external consistencies that we talked about last time. And then they'll organize their information. And then number four, they will create their account or their perspective of all this information that they have gathered. Now, they use four tools to do this. One is significance. So we talked about the three questions. Well, first we did the activity about the 10 things that you would put inside if you were going to tell somebody what life was like in Michigan, you would put 10 things inside this box, this capsule, so that 1,000 years later, they can know what life was like for us right now. And then we asked the questions of why we chose these particular things. Why were these particular things important? And then we chose them based on these three questions. So, do these things affect a lot of people? Does it impact a lot of people? Okay. Could it have changed the way that people lived? And does it impact lots of areas of life? So we talked about how that's not geographic, right? And that's how areas of life, like different factors of their life. And then we talked about how events can be historically significant and answer these questions as well. So the first one could have changed the way people lived. That's how dramatic the change was. So like an earthquake was more dramatic than an alarm clock, right? Does it impact lots of people? That means the number of people, right? The magnitude of the event or the invention. Does it impact lots of areas of life? So does it impact lots of parts of life? Work, play, school, family, all types of life in somebody's, and all those people that are living in that area. Okay, then we made those bookmarks and corrected those. And we talked about how a person or a thing can make history by answering those questions, basically. So an event that affects many people is significant. And the more people affected by the event, the more significant the event becomes. An event that affects many parts of our life is significant. How we eat, sleep, work, play, organize ourselves, travel, all of those things. And then how dramatic the change is, right? So the more dramatic the change, the more the event is significant. Like a war is probably more important than an argument, right? So then we looked at how these two are different and in the answering the question on how dramatic it is, right? An earthquake is a lot more dramatic than an alarm clock. Then we talked about temporal frame, okay? And we talked about how calendars are a religious idea, and that's when you guys did the project on the different calendar types that we have. There's a short video. If you need to remind yourself about the modern calendar, please go back and watch this video. It's on the vlog. Then we talked about social institutions. So social institutions are social constructs that answer the needs of society, right? So people need to make a living. They need to produce. They need to distribute food and shelter. So that's kind of like economy. They need law and order and a system to protect each other. So that's kind of like government. They need to learn and transmit culture and learn how to do things like learn how to make a living, learn how to make produce and distribute food. And that's education. They have shared beliefs and ideas, and that is religion, and a shared system of communication and self-expression, which is language, right? And then they need a way to take care of their family and raise their children, and that is basically the social institution of family. So social institutions are organizations that large groups of humans create to help solve social problems. So these are the social problems, right? You need to have some sort of system so that everyone's not chaotic and everywhere. You need a system to learn. You need to share your beliefs and ideas and a way to communicate with each other. So these are the list of needs. So then people create these social institutions to take care of those needs. Right? This is another short video we watched in class. So if you need to remind yourself of this video, please go back and watch it. Then we kind of watched this video on the ancient Egyptians and kind of analyzed their culture onto these social systems. So what was their economy like? What was their government like? What was their education like? And so on and so forth. Then we talked a little bit about spatial frames and how basically geography is basically like containers, right? The historians and geographers kind of use these containers to organize human activities. A lot of times these are man-made boundaries, right? They're not naturally there on the floor. That actually people are the ones that divide the land based on who controls it and what they need from it and so on. So we talked about how this is Afro-Euro-Asia, which kind of is all connected by one landmass, and that's why they name it that. And then these are the Americas, which are also connected by one landmass, and that's why they named it that. So these are two separate containers. We talked about how this is a division, a political division between Palestine and Israel, and how basically people chose the borders of these nations or these countries or territories. So basically, those were the four levels of, or four tools to analyze the past. Okay. And if you have any questions, please go back, look at your packets. Another thing I want to remind you guys about was when we talked about temporal frame, which is back here. We talked about AD and what Anno Domini means. We talked about BC, before Christ, what that means and why they use that. And then we talked about BCE and CE. So please go back over your notes and review those terms. And you can always ask me questions if you don't understand. All right, Jazakallah khair.